Good afternoon and welcome to Johnson & Johnson's Nothing Stops Innovation Roundtable discussion. I'd like to introduce your moderator, Seema Kumar, Vice President of Innovation, Global Health and Policy Communication at Johnson & Johnson. She's joined by Anitas Gupta, winner of our 2015 BioGENEius Challenge and this year's Hall of Fame awardee for an outstanding alumni. And later we'll be joined by this year's BioGENEius finalist. This is an informal, interactive roundtable, and questions are encouraged. We'll start with Seema and Anitas, who formed a lasting relationship since the 2015 competition. Seema, Anitas, take it away.
Thank you, Larry. Hi, Anitas. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Seema?
I'm doing well. First of all, congratulations on being the recipient of the 2020 Alumni Award for BioGENEius. It's a fabulous honor and so well-deserved.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such an honor.
It's great. I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time, and I first met you when you won the BioGENEius Challenge, and I can't even remember which year it was. It seemed so just a couple of years ago.
But 2015.
2015. Wow, exactly 5 years ago. So. And it's just wonderful to see you grow and, become a seasoned entrepreneur yourself. So it's wonderful to follow your journey. But for those of you who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I guess my story starts out very early. I wanted to be a pediatrician when I was young. I actually wanted nothing to do with business. My parents are both entrepreneurs and the life seemed too difficult for me, but look at where fate has led me. So, but I was always very interested in human health. And growing up, I wanted to find ways to improve people's quality of life and really help people live their best, healthiest lives. I became involved with computer science kind of as a route to that goal. I had been interested in high school in doing some of the science fairs like BioGENEius, etc. And I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and my parents were too busy to drive me half an hour every day to the nearest lab. So I started thinking, can I use the tools around me, like computer science, to actually see if I can make a difference in bio? And once I started down that path, I really fell in love with the way that computer science could make biology and drug discovery so much more elegant, and all the opportunities that existed there. And so I started doing these projects on using machine learning, basically training the computer to help scientists find new drugs in a more cost-effective and time-effective manner. And that was the project that led me to BioGENEius. I was specifically looking at a class of proteins that were mutated in cancer, tuberculosis, and Ebola, and they had been very difficult to target in the past. So my project was on using machine learning and biomimicry to target those proteins. And science fairs gave me a lot of really wonderful experiences to present my research. I presented my research at the White House Ebola Innovators Conference. I got to present to President Obama at the White House Science Fair. And then, of course, BioGENEius was like the final competition I did. And it was such a great experience for me because, as I've said earlier, I think that BioGENEius has a unique kind of focus on not only the science, but also impact. How can you not only come up with a new project, but really make sure that it can be commercialized and reach the patients that it's meant to help? And I think that very naturally fit in with my way of looking at the world, which had been shaped by, not only my aspirations to become a pediatrician, but also from seeing, my parents being entrepreneurs and working hard every day as immigrants to this country, working hard to help other people through their business. And so BioGENEius formed a very sort of natural and I think needed role for me. And so, I started thinking then really seriously about how I could, actually bring this technology of AI and drug discovery to patients and started thinking about entrepreneurship. When I went to Stanford, that was, Stanford is, of course, one of the hubs of entrepreneurship and computer science. And so the university really helped me nurture that passion for entrepreneurship. And when I graduated, I decided, I wanted to try it out and just go for the gold and try using some of these technologies I had been developing to really improve synthetic biology and drug discovery and bring about new discoveries in science and technology.
That's fantastic. I mean, you also founded Litas for Girls, right? Tell us a little bit about that and why did you start that?
Yeah, so Litas for Girls has been a passion project for me. I started it in 10th grade after I took computer science, my first computer science class, and I saw 3/4 of the girls drop out of that class as compared to less than 1/4 of the boys. And I was very confused, actually, because the girls who were dropping out had higher grades than the boys who were staying in the class. Mm-hmm. And I saw this trend kind of repeated at a lot of science fairs and other places I went. I consistently saw that at the highest levels, there were very few women represented in the sciences and in technology. So my idea with Litas was how to inspire young girls to pursue science and technology through kind of a project-based approach. So for me, the two things that helped me pursue science were the presence of strong female role models, because my mom is a chemical engineer. I always had that example to look up to. And then also knowing that I wasn't just doing computer science for computer science's sake, but to really have an impact on people. And later on, studies actually showed that for girls, it's very important to have that kind of aspect in mind, that they're making an impact on the world through whatever they're learning, because they like to do projects and do things that help with social good. And so Litas was founded with that approach to help promote women and girls in science through project-based learning.
And of course, now you are a founder and CEO of your own biotech startup, right? Now your parents are both entrepreneurs, so that's probably why you sort of fell into the entrepreneurship. You caught the entrepreneurship bug as well. But what is the mission of your company and what does it focus on?
So the company I founded in about September of last year. I graduated with my bachelor's and master's in CS from Stanford in June last year, and then founded the company throughout the summer and then started in September. And AI Novo Biotech really focuses on using cutting-edge artificial intelligence and machine learning to enable synthetic biology and what I call biology 2.0, which is the idea that not only, so far we've been focusing on taking natural products and molecules that exist and screening them for particular properties. But the idea of AI Novo Biotech is to actually use artificial intelligence to design new molecules that have the properties that you want. So this is a lot of our work is in protein engineering, for example, and we're actually repurposing our platform right now to focus on developing proteins for COVID diagnostics. So there's a huge amount of impact that you can have in this field right now, which is really what we're focusing on.
That's great. Now, you and I have talked about on several panels the importance of building trust and championship for science. Why do you think that's important? Especially now, I think it's brought things into sharper focus as to why science is important, right?
Yeah, I think championing science is important because science is really a way of looking at the world, right? Teaching people those analytical skills so that they can distinguish fact from fiction, so that they can keep questioning what's going on in the world around them. That's more important now than ever. We are dealing with so many issues simultaneously. We're dealing with public health issues, we're dealing with political issues, we're dealing with security, with social justice. And really, you need to have champions in science who are committed to the truth and not just swaying people one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And so we really need students to have that belief that they can look at the world analytically and have it make sense. And I think that it's great that, scientists like Dr. Fauci have become so well known, and because people really find scientists to be a source of comfort in these times.
Correct.
In a world with so much uncertainty, decomposing everything to the scientific method and really applying those skills helps you gain control, and it helps students feel better, I think, about the world.
Absolutely. The studies have shown that actually one of the most trusted sort of group of people now are scientists and doctors and medical professionals, which I think goes to show the importance of the enterprise, scientific enterprise, in helping society, tackle diseases and tackle public health challenges, but also advance society. Right. So my last question is, so what does it feel like to receive the 2020 Alumni Award?
It feels really great. I mean, I remember back in my high school days how much I looked up to the winner of this award. And it feels really nice to be, recognized in this way, and to think that, this is just the beginning, of course, but, to see that to have the support of BioGENeius has been invaluable. For example, I've known you for 4 or 5 years now, and you're such a great mentor and example to me. And just coming every year to see familiar faces like Larry and Quinta, working hard to inspire the next generation of scientists. I'm very happy and very proud to be part of such a community, which is dedicated to such great things and inspiring students across the globe.
Absolutely. And it's been such a pleasure to watch you, grow and become a CEO. And you're a great role model for everyone. You are an inspiration to me and to so many others. So thank you for this wonderful conversation, and congratulations again, Anita.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
And now I wanted to have a conversation actually with our BioGENeius finalists. And Anvita, you and I can have a roundtable discussion with all of them, so we can tag team. So I want to first of all turn to all of our 2020 BioGENeius finalists, and I'm trying to click over here to see if I can see the videos of all of them. And I just want to say, first of all, congratulations. Each and every one of you, is just a winner already for all that you have accomplished so far. And I want to, I wish we were all sitting at a restaurant having dinner, but, this is just as good to be connected virtually, because I can see many of you. And, I want to say welcome and congratulations. And if you want to turn on your video, that'll be great. If not, at the very least, it'll be nice to hear your voices when you're speaking. So let me pose a first question. This is obviously the first question on all of our minds, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. So I want to ask you all, how is it impacting your studies? How is it impacting your daily lives and your student life? Anybody want to take that?
Well, my name is Rashika, and
hi, Rashika.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, definitely quarantine has been a tough time on all of us in our education and pursuing our research and everything as well. But I do believe that it's given us a lot of opportunities as well in advancing ourselves in technology and immersing ourselves in finding new ways to educate and learn from the school or even outside of school.
And so do you feel, because I think one of the big things is in student life is the interaction you have with others, right? Because that's also a big part of learning. Now, with the social distancing and isolation, has that been a challenge?
Yes, it definitely has. We don't get to see each other in the halls anymore and communicate as much as we used to. But I also do think that we have been able to communicate almost as much as we used to, even if it is through virtual methods. I mean, FaceTime and simply chatting has, if anything, it's increased more than ever. And while we may say that it's not exactly good, always sitting inside and just looking at a screen, I do think that we are still able to pursue communication, whether it be through virtual methods or not.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Rishika. Anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, I could second that. I mean, I think in terms of like the school's curriculum, it's been harder to find the sort of motivation to show up to class every day, because you're talking to your teacher through an interface, and sometimes a 1 hour or 45-minute call with a teacher doesn't cut it. But I think it's, all this free time during quarantine has left us with a lot more time with self-discovery and, learning a lot more about science and technology. And I think times like this where, there's so much uncertainty, that's the time where you sort of jump the gun on entrepreneurship and start really developing these really ingenious new ways of putting together science and creating solutions.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? One last comment and then we'll move to the next question.
So for me, my school was closed as well. And since I go to a public school where not everyone has equal access to the internet, the school district made the decision not to offer any online schooling. So our schooling was cut short entirely. And while that decision doesn't always benefit all of us, and it was hard in some ways, at the same time, it gives you drive, I guess, since you know that you're missing out on this education, you know that you have to try to make up for it in other ways, as Andrew said. So I've been trying to study on my own and also with friends virtually, and also I've been able to spend more time with my family and cultivate new hobbies as well. So there's a silver lining to it, I think. So yeah, I think it is a dark cloud, but there is silver lining.
That's good. Thank you. I want to just ask Anvita. Anvita, what has your experience been, and do you have any comments to share or any questions to ask our finalists?
Yeah, I think my experience has been, since I am in a running a biotech startup, it's been interesting because as Andrew said, you have this immense sort of change going on in the world where certain industries are advancing at a 10x rate of what they were advancing at previously. And certain industries, it's been terrible for them. For biotech, it's been not bad industry-wise. So I've been keeping myself very busy with work and management and all that. I'm kind of curious, though, for the students, do you find yourself honing in on certain subjects or passions that you wouldn't get to explore so much during your regular schooling?
I wanted to say that, while the pandemic has sort of cut our schools short and, we haven't been able to, study as much, I think that at the same time, it's, brought us towards, investing in our passions more. For example, I myself, I've, wanted to start, an organization to, help underprivileged, people to get them inspired in, science and, STEM. And I think during the school year, oftentimes we want to explore our passions and interests, but we just have too much going on and there isn't that time. And so I think while, let's say, school has sort of been cut short and, condensed because of the pandemic, and that was unfortunate for many of us, I think that at the same time it's given this opportunity to be able to hone in on our passions and what we want to do. And I think that it's kind of in this time where we can sort of build upon that and get towards the first steps.
That's great. Anyone else?
I think I agree with what everyone has said. It's really given us an opportunity to explore things we wouldn't have had time for otherwise. But I also feel like I resonate with some of Mina's experiences. I go to a large public school, so we haven't been having online classes very regularly, and most of my teachers aren't teaching anymore. So when it came to things like AP exams and studying, I found myself spending more time with my schoolwork just because I had lost that network of support that I had had prior So I had to figure out how to do things studying wise all on my own. And while I was still able to find time to like explore other interests and get back to hobbies, I found that quarantine made it harder for me to explore academic interests within the range of schooling. And also because I could no longer go to the lab, I wasn't able to start new research or continue on that road as well. So it's been hard that way, even though there have been some positives.
Thank you. I want to hear from some of you we haven't heard from yet on, first of all, what made you take part in the BioGENeius challenge? So let's have maybe 3 of you answer that. And then I want to also sort of, in the particular area of science that you presented your work, what inspired you in that particular area of focus? So you can either answer both or one of them or either of them. Shall we get someone who hasn't yet spoken to share?
I'm Elisha Johnston. I really liked the BioGENeIus competition, and I wanted to participate because it helped me see a totally different side to the biological world. Going to the lab, I see my professor, I see the postdocs, and they're all very academia focused. And BioGENeIus has really helped to bring out the part of the commercial side. And I think for myself, it's really expanded my views on just the importance of biology, both in terms of just basic research and also the applications in health.
That's great. Excellent. Anyone else?
So I was intrigued to join the BioGENeIus Challenge because I actually have a research class at my school, and every year we kind of work together to do our own project that is important to us. So I did it last year. I didn't get to this level, but ever since competing in the regional competition last year, I was so inspired by all the professionals at the challenge, and I loved how it wasn't just focused on math and hard science, but it was focusing on making an impact on the lives of others. And that's something I've always been passionate about. I've always been passionate about using different mediums to make a change in the lives of others, mainly through art. But this kind of gave me another way of looking at it, and it gave me another way of using science to make a change. And I don't know, I just thought that was such a cool, amazing opportunity.
It's wonderful. Anvita, okay, Rick?
Sure, I'll jump in here. So BioGENeIus, I really didn't come into contact with anything about BioGENeIus. It was totally just by chance. But I think once I came in contact and I saw all the things that everybody's doing, it's amazing. It's a totally different mood. It's a totally different atmosphere. Just rather than we're talking about hard sciences or math, just moving that into a direction that it's applicable, moving it into a direction where each of us see an inspiration that we want to go forward with this. We want to do something Mrs. Gupta did and go forward with an entrepreneurship challenge. And I think that's really the difference that I've seen between BioGENeIus and something that's really gotten me motivated to jump in on this competition.
So one more question, and then maybe Anvita, if you have questions as well. I was actually yesterday when we were judging the gene pool competition, and I heard all of your pitches. And by the way, it was so amazing. I wish when I was your age, I had that kind of confidence and I had that kind of drive and verve and had done that, because this is going to come in really handy for you guys when you go to college, and also when you actually are looking for a job and pitching, doing the elevator pitch and selling your quote unquote idea. So, great job, all of you. Under such pressure of doing it under 1 minute, you were awesome. You were really awesome. But I was thinking to myself, I was waiting and waiting and waiting for one of the pitches to be about COVID, a solution for COVID. Now, given that you've gone through this sort of unprecedented experience, or we're not gone through, I shouldn't even be using past tense. We're still firmly, fully in it. Did it inspire you to think, hey, maybe I should put my thinking cap on and see what solutions I can bring to the table for this? Whether it's technology, whether it's science, whether it's social impact, or whatever it is. Did that strike any of you at all? And if so, what were some of your ideas?
So I'm Arjun Murthy. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. So one of the things that I also found really interesting with my mom being a physician, and obviously they still have to, they're on the front lines, obviously combating these kind of patients. And so my mom particularly is a cancer oncologist. And so what I found really interesting was that even though she doesn't treat COVID patients directly, how vastly COVID still impacts their life. And so, for example, like how patients are like now in all these offices, patients, well, first of all, when we think about like the big problems in medicine, a lot of stuff goes straight to cancer. And now cancer is, as crazy as it sounds, it's almost taken like a back seat. They have to put their patients on like hormone blockers now and almost like stall the cancer and not even treat them, because a lot of states have actually canceled or they've recently put them back on, but for months they've canceled these elective surgeries. And so I found that really fascinating. And also whenever patients come into offices and they now have to get screened, like they have to take like a paper pencil sort of like
Test. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so I actually helped my mom in that way, because I really found that there has to be an easier way to do that. So I also like make almost like an electronic tool that was able to do the same thing to make it easier for patients to, because rather than especially being understaffed and in all these sort of situations, like the amount of stress that's been putting on these doctors' offices, clinics is just really insane, especially during these times. So yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot of patients, who have had chemotherapy sessions scheduled, face a very difficult choice. Should I go get my chemotherapy because it's important for me to, get rid of this cancer, versus if I go there, am I going to, because I'm immunocompromised, am I going to get COVID while being in the hospital? So these are very difficult times. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Arjun. Anyone else?
That's a wonderful question, Ms. Kumar. So I've really noticed, especially seeing my parent, my dad, who's a healthcare professional, being a pharmacist, that COVID has really taken the front seat when it comes to a lot of problems that the biomedical industry is trying to tackle. So besides just friends and family members who are having to deal with COVID patients in the hospital, and they're struggling every day and taking more than 12-hour shifts to meet the demand that's really happening with our healthcare system. What I've sort of noticed is that people are quickly trying to solve COVID because it's really the first thing that's affecting everyone. So as Arjun mentioned previously, a lot of things such as cancer and those who are going for surgical treatments have really taken the back seat because COVID is something that's really causing a huge problem across the country and something that potentially anyone can get, which is really causing the industry to really propel themselves forward in finding a solution as soon as possible to the pandemic.
Yeah, very, very, it's absolutely true. I'm going to call on a couple of folks who we haven't heard from before, either Elizabeth or Ilana or Shreya, the other Shreya. Maybe we can ask you guys to comment, and then I'm going to turn it to Anvita to see if Anvita has some questions.
I can comment.
Yeah.
So one of the things, like Rashika said, was the struggle with education in society right now. And looking back in my high school career, losing even just 3 months can play such a big role in your future and your knowledge. And so one idea that, solution that I thought about was incorporating the technology that we have with education, such as virtual reality, and making programs that can really help students of all ages try to catch back up with those lost months.
That's a very good point. Elizabeth or Shreya, Ramesh?
I think COVID-19 has been really interesting to watch from a scientific standpoint, just because it's really seeing so many in a scientific sense, competitors in so many different companies and businesses around the world come together as one for the greater good of everyone else in the world. And it's incredible to see the speed at which all of this really important research is being done, and just how quickly everything came together to try to solve this really terrible problem. And I think going into science, that's a really incredible thing to see, because it shows that this community can band together and fight something that people that is doing a lot of harm, and not only fight it, but eventually solve it.
That's great. That's excellent. I think we have a few minutes to just answer your questions, take your comments. Do you have questions for Anvita, me, Quinta, Larry? If you want to, send in your questions, or you can ask, or you can put it into the chat box. So I think we have Alicia Johnston from California has a question.
My question is for you, Ms. Kumar. Doing research in an area personally where treatment occurs at the later stages with little success, do you have any advice on how to market products toward targeting treating diseases in their early stages?
Yeah, I think, one of the things I think people are very quickly understanding is that we need to become a society of health rather than sickness. And we need to not only treat diseases early, but intervene even before they have a chance to become diseases. So one of the key things that we're focused on as part of our World Without Disease vision is early intervention and prevention. So the good news is that there is a market for that. But I think what is required is sort of first of all, the proof of concept that actually intervening early can delay the progression. I mean, Alzheimer's is an area where I think it's a huge area of opportunity. Similarly, cancer, if you can actually find something that is just before precancerous, it's about to become cancerous, that's another area. But also diagnosing things that are in the infectious diseases arena. So while you cannot prevent you can sort of cannot prevent an infection, early detection can actually change the course of that infection in your body. So for all those reasons, I think it is becoming clearly an area that payers also are interested in. So yes, there's a huge opportunity there, and I think the focus needs to be on one of the things I think would be important to show to market the idea would be to look at the pharmacoeconomic impacts of it and what kind of cost savings it can create for the healthcare systems, for the hospitals, and for the patients. Because as you know, there's so much spending in healthcare. Healthcare is too costly. So I think if you can create a package like that, that is much more powerful. I don't know if Anvita, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think, early detection is a huge factor in treating diseases like cancer, right? The earlier you catch the disease, the much better chance you have of survival. And I think there's a huge market for that with tests that's growing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, next question is from Joma, Maine. Hi, Joma.
Hi, Ms. Kumar. So the question that I was curious about, and I'm hoping that you can answer entirely, briefly pull it out, is what advice would you give to those entering the bio world, such as Ms. Gupta did, in terms of networking and what hopefully they'll be doing in college?
Yeah, I think one of the first things I would say, my advice is for whoever's entering, be very good with your substance, your science, your subject matter expertise. It's important to sort of be completely buttoned up about that. That's number one. Number two, don't think about yourself, think about the world. And I say this to people a lot, even in the mid stages of their career, because sometimes somebody will come to me and they'll ask me for advice and they'll say, well, I'd like to be a VP of XYZ in 5 years. And that's a way of thinking, and that's what people used to say, I want to be this by this. Instead, I think that what is really a good way to think about it is, I want to solve cancer. I want to solve breast cancer. I want to solve Alzheimer's disease. I want to solve ALS. I want to, so it's thinking about that purpose and being purpose driven, I think so when you have those two and then you network, you become a magnet for people. People love you, people want you, they want to be your followers, they want to, they will be competing to get your attention because you bring that level of subject matter expertise plus purpose together. It's a recipe for success. And then you start networking. If you network without, any of that, everybody will talk to you and there'll be great, advice and good friendships and connections created. But really, it will not lead to the outcome that you desire. So that's my advice.
Do you mind if I quickly add to that?
Please, not at all.
I would say one piece of advice that I have that I see a lot of students fall into this trap is, I would say, solve hard problems. Don't fall into the trap of, building a new calendar for people or, a new chat bot. Really think about the problem and the dream that you have that you want to do, no matter how big it is. Be ambitious and go for that problem, because even if you make a little bit of progress in that problem, you're still leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. And not only that, but you're actually working on the thing that you wake up to every day with a passion for. So that was one thing I wanted to add.
Absolutely. Next question is from Shujato.
So first, before I ask my question, I wanted to thank you both for holding this roundtable. It was really nice to hear everyone's opinions and things that's going on. So my question is that right now in this pandemic, we're seeing a lot of doctors' offices and hospitals and especially labs closing down. And so I was wondering, with all these places shutting down, do you think what do you think about the future of scientific innovation? In particular, do you think that we'd see this rise in the use of computational tools and artificial intelligence to solve today's problems?
I think that AI and computational tools are definitely accelerating and being brought into the spotlight because of COVID-19. There's just so much more that you can do virtually. At the same time, there are limits, on what you can accomplish virtually. It's not like I can, today anyways, come up with a drug and without any testing give it to you, right? I will always need animal models. I always need some sort of clinical trials. And so I think that it's going to be key moving forward. The US has focused a lot recently on kind of the virtual economy, on large tech companies, on really building out that software expertise. I think that we'll actually see a return once things calm down a bit of innovation in the physical world and focusing more on biotech and building those capabilities here in the US and building that supply chain out so that even if there's a global pandemic, the US and companies like J&J will still be equipped to deal with it, which they are right now, but a lot of work has been outsourced, and I think you'll see more physical things coming back.
Yeah, I think it's almost like there's one part of science that is accelerating beyond belief. It's on steroids. And that has to do with all things related to COVID. And because we have this extraordinary Mission Impossible problem, the amount of scientific research, the amount of creativity that is going on, 126 or 27 vaccines are being studied, all kinds of screenings of drugs are being done, collaboration at a massive scale. I mean, even innovation in terms of processes, FDA is looking at accelerating their review processes in just record time. We're looking and trying new things. And this reminds me of when HIV/AIDS was was one of the critical things. It created all kinds of innovation because things like biomarkers and sort of using that as a way to kind of judge whether a drug was working or not, and things like that, and priority reviews and things of the regulatory, collaborative, all that. So it's almost like putting man on the moon, so even though it was just that part of it was the piece that really created, it was about putting man on the moon, but as a result of it, the number of different technologies that came in. Similarly, the Human Genome Project. So the only thing to do was to sequence a human genome, but in the process of sequencing the human genome, the fruits of all of the technologies that were studied, blossomed. And so, fruits don't blossom, flowers blossom into fruits, whatever. So, wrong analogy. But, so I think that there is a lot of extraordinary science that is going on that is actually going to be, relevant for us in the future. What it has created is sort of like this lopsided way of thinking. Everything is going towards COVID, but it's okay because once we have a vaccine, all those things we learned are then going to turn to things that we can apply towards other research and diseases. So I would say innovation is like blossoming everywhere. Necessity is the mother of innovation, as they say, or invention, and that's happening now that I see actually in every sector.
Thank you.
All right, next question, Shreya, Ramesh.
Yeah, so my question is, so kind of what Anvita was talking about earlier, we're seeing a lot more of the introduction of computer science in the world of biology. So when you're marketing a particular platform or an idea that relies heavily on computer science, how exactly do you market this particular innovation, especially to a group of investors who may be skeptical of things, for example, patient privacy?
In terms of marketing software solutions, it's tough. I think that you should, if you're doing a biotech startup, you should always have some sort of proof of concept built out. And I think that helps immensely in terms of, I've done this clinical trial, I've applied it with these patients, I've built this product, I have this patent. You need something like that. For VCs and getting funding and all that, VCs love funding things that don't have very many capital costs. So getting funding for software is not that hard, but with privacy regulations and all, you run into some barriers. So I think like really for marketing, any concrete evidence that you have that your approach is working, just being really able to answer the ins and outs, what if my test set is imbalanced? What if I give a wrong diagnosis? Just thinking about everything that can go wrong, and really keeping in mind who your target market is, and do they want this product? Do they need it? And if they need it, how much will they pay for it? And how do you show them that this is worth it?
Yeah, I would actually think about marketing it to a company that has biology but no computation, or partner with somebody like that. Because we're still at a point in time where computation on its own, while it is a powerful tool, without the biology, it's kind of, there is a yin but not a yang, at least at this point in time of where we stand as a sector. So, for example, Apple, no matter how phenomenal they are and what a great company they are, it's very hard for them to enter into biology because at the end of the day, the physiology and the biochemistry and all of that is messy. It's messy science. It's not as easy as computation. So that's why Apple and we have a collaboration to look at atrial fibrillation and detecting atrial fibrillation to see if it can actually prevent the occurrence of stroke. And so, yes, you can have an iWatch that has that can detect your atrial fibrillation. It can tell you, hey, you have atrial fibrillation. But then what do? The Apple iWatch can't give you, cannot do anything for you for your heart. It can't go in, and if you're having a stroke, it can't give you a TPA, or it can't revive you. It can't do any of those things. You still have to go to the hospital, right? And so, but if you combine Johnson & Johnson's, biology with Apple's, technology, then you've got something that is powerful. Yeah. And so I think that it's at the intersection of the two that there is a lot of promise. So I would suggest looking for a partner maybe. But I'm speaking, by the way, Shreya, without knowing the full details of your project. I only know the high level details of your project, but I would say bringing in a partner who's sort of, and partnering together, I think would be a great addition.
Yeah, AI Novo, my startup, we also partner with several universities to do lab validations, and we've been focused on that since day one because it's so important to have that physical piece.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next question is from Arjun.
So yeah, thank you guys. It's a really good panel. And so I just had a quick question for either of you guys. So with both of you guys obviously working in within the pharmaceutical space, what's the relationship with other pharmaceutical companies during this time? Would you say it's more cooperative or competitive?
I called it a collaboration on steroids. So that's what it is, because we're all rooting for each other, and as you know, there's also a common bond we have as an industry, because people are constantly complaining about and have very little trust in the industry, in the healthcare industry. They're constantly banging at us about cost, pricing, this, that, and that, and I think that this is an opportunity for us to show the value of why diagnostics are important, why treatments are important, why vaccines are important. And it's interesting where you see studies where people say, I actually would support investing a lot of money in XYZ company because they're working on a vaccine, because now I think the value proposition of what we bring to the table is really much more evident to people because they're feeling it on a daily basis. And so I think that there is a little bit of competition, meaning would I want to be the first compared to another company? Yeah, of course I do. But on the other hand, this is not like a cutthroat competition. The race is against the virus. We're all racing. The competition is against the virus. And so at the end of the day, let's say company X has a better vaccine than company Y, and that company Y's vaccine may not be that great. Company Y is going to then open up its manufacturing floors and its people and its laboratories to help company X's vaccine accelerate. So that's I think this is the same kind of collaboration we saw when in some other circumstances. So that's, I don't know if Anvita, you have anything to add?
I would agree. I mean, I think that there is some level of competition, yeah, I would like to be the first, or I would like to have a better test. But I mean, especially in diagnostics, one company is not going to produce all the tests that are needed globally, right? That's just not how it's going to work. So there's a lot of room and opportunity for multiple companies to come up with good solutions and to really help combat the virus together. So I think it's been a unique sort of collaborative opportunity in that sense.
That's great. Yeah, it is. And there are 7.8 billion people in the world, And it's actually good to have a few different vaccines and a few different treatments because, the throughput of what might be required depending on the scale of the infection will be, quite large, and no one company can do it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there is one last question, and that is from Andrew. Andrew?
Hi. So I think this question might be geared a little more towards Anvita. So kind of as a startup biotech company with an industry with a lot of conglomerates, how do you convince investors and other third-party capital sources to really believe in your scientific and economic merit in your product, especially when they aren't so keen on like the science and technology aspect of it?
I've had a unique experience in that I haven't had a lot of, I think a lot of VCs right now are getting more focused on science and technology and funding hard science. There are investors that do that specifically. We've been trying to hold off on actually raising funding as long as possible and really pursuing non-dilutive funding opportunities because you do have to be cognizant that once you have a VC who's on your board, et cetera, they're very stringent about kind of what you're doing, how much freedom you have to pivot and all that. But as for convincing VCs, I think this is where what I talked about earlier comes into play in terms of solving hard problems. So we are solving a problem that is very difficult. Like if you can have the ability to use AI to design a new protein that does a function that you want, right? Think about the things I could build. I can build promoters that produce genes 1,000 times more efficiently, right? I can build proteins that can be used to catalyze enzyme reactions much more efficiently at high temperatures. I can build enzymes to break down plastics and plastic pollution. So the impact that your technology can have is basically so great that I think people can't help but be interested. And I've been kind of fending off a few people in that sense, in that we're not raising money right now, maybe soon. And, I think that it's all about the technology and showing that you are competent technologically, you know what you're talking about. There's nothing worse than, hearing someone say something about AI that's just like completely, it's wrong, right? You're not going to believe that person afterwards, no matter what they're trying to sell you. So I think it really comes down to having a passion, having a big vision, like Seema was saying, and then building yourself to have the technical skills to actually carry out that passion.
Thank you so much to all of you. Good luck, and we will see you next week. Right?
Thank you so much, everyone, for your great questions. It's been such a pleasure, and can't wait to see you guys grow.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Have a good Friday and a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.